Let me ask you about the higher ed budget. Both of your institutions are going to take pretty significant hits in this budget, whether it's the House budget or the Senate budget that passes. You're going to have quite a lot less money next time around than you do this time around. Can you quantify what you expect, what you project that cut to be on a dollar or percentage basis in each case, please, and how you think this is going to impact your ability to provide the education that you want to provide and the services you want to provide on your campuses? Mr. Powers first.
We have this is of general revenue, not our entire budget. Of the general revenue, I think in the House bill is about 21% down. In the Senate bill, as it stands right now, it's about 16% down, biennium over biennium.
And your percentage of state funding of your overall budget is at this point what?
Is about 14%.
So it would be a percentage of a percentage.
Percentage of a percentage.
Right, that you'd see.
But it is the money that's used to teach, to pay the history professors, to pay the physics professors, et cetera. So it's, what I would say, it's the sand that you put in the oyster around which the pearl grows, right? It's a tremendous leverage for our state that for about 350, after these budgets of maybe about $300 million, they get a $2.2 billion university because we're able to leverage that with NSF grants, philanthropy, et cetera. It will have a negative impact. We will lose sections of courses. We're trying to put as much of it as we can on the administrative side. But even there, remember, administrators aren't just paper pushers. They're advisors. They're people that are providing food services in the dorms. They're people that are providing services to students. They're writing NSF grants to help bring in other money. They are development officers that are trying to bring in other money.
And in truth, Mr. Powers and Dr. Loftin, administrative salaries, so-called non-instructional spending, doesn't represent a high enough percentage of your overall budget to get you the entire cut, does it?
Absolutely.
By no means.
And we are already very lean. Texas A&M and Texas, on an LBB study, are about half the state average in the percentage of our budget that goes to administration. I'll say Texas A&M is number one, meaning best on that list, and we're number two. We are administratively lean organizations. And so those cuts will make a difference in our ability to provide the kinds of services to the students. But they will not be able to handle the entirety of the cut, and we have laid off lecturers and other people providing instructional services. We were in a course redesign program to be able to give high quality education in light of these changing financial circumstances, and I'm very proud of that reform effort. But we'll manage it. Families across the state are cutting their family budgets.
You'll have to cut yours.
Well, we will cut our budget. I will say there's one analogy that's often given. Businesses have been cutting their budgets, and families have been cutting their budgets, yes, and we're cutting our budgets. I probably spend as much time on that as anything on the campus. One pressure point that we have is when Ford cuts its workforce, it's because demand for its automobiles is down and they're not making as many automobiles. We're making cuts, and we need to make cuts. These are tough economic times. We are not asking for being exempt from cuts. But our demand isn't going down like Ford's demand. We have the same number of students, yep. Increasing numbers of students right. In the state of Texas coming. So it will put real pressure on our ability right. To deliver service.
In fact, Dr. Loftin, like the public schools, you're in fact going to end up having to do more with less, right?
That's precisely the case. I've been talking to my students for many, many months about this. Teaching is a multifaceted approach at Texas A&M or UT Austin or any university. If I add 10% to a lecture class size, that's manageable in the lecture delivery. Right. But there's 10% more papers to grade then. So the feedback that student gets may be a little bit less than it was before. The queue outside the office to see the professor, a little longer. The time in the hallway walking down that professor asking a question, a little bit less accessible because you can't manufacture time. What you can do is you can add more students into the mix with fewer faculty. That's what we're doing. 105 of our tenured faculty chose to retire early an incentive program we put in place. That's a huge part of our savings right now to make all this line up with the realities here, but that's 105 less very experienced teachers I'm going to have next year than I had this year. So I told the students, you will feel an impact. That professor will not be as accessible because they've got now 10% more kids than they had last time.
Right. Before we open it up for questions, let me ask you one last thing about graduation rates. We at the Tribune and other media have looked at the graduation rates of the public universities of the state. UT is, on the four-year graduation rate, is first among public universities at just below 54% of students graduating after 4 years. A&M is second at just above 50%. No other public university in Texas is above 50%. Is that okay that we're only at the best institutions in the state, public institutions, only graduating after 4 years?
Well, let me address that. The issue 50%? Really here is how we do business. Programs vary a lot. Some students require a few major changes to find their right niche. They may not get out in 4 years because of that. Our 6-year rate, which is the national standards, 84%.
Higher.
Which is right where
also in the mid to high 80s at UT as well.
Right. So, and that's very, very good. It's not the best in the country, but it's darn good. 90% or so is what you see at the very, very best universities.
So should we stop looking at the 4-year rates? Is that just
the 4-year
an unfair
rates
snapshot?
are a problem for us because of how curriculum stacked up. The input of students in terms of preparation is also an issue there sometimes. Right. And their own choices they make while they're at university in terms of majors and changes of majors can impact those things. We are committed right now, Texas A&M, to getting more people through quicker. So we're really working hard. I think UT is doing the same thing. We're actually collaborating together on ways to really get students more effectively through the system a little faster, which saves them money and saves the state money at the same time.
If you got to do a $10,000 college degree in 6 years, Mr. Powers, that's not very much money per year, is it?
One issue, and I'd like to just make a brief comment on the graduation rates, but if a $10,000 degree means the cost to the student, actually 23% of our students right now pay $2,500 or less per year. Right. Now that's with scholarship money and et cetera. If it means the social cost, that's I think in some fields, in some areas, we ought to be looking for creative ways of providing education to the members of to the public in Texas. Different institutions with different kinds of missions are going to make different contributions to that. But let me just make a comment on the graduation rates. I have 5 children. One's about to go to college. 4 are through or within a week of being through college. Parents expect children to graduate in 4 years unless it's a program that's really a 5-year program. Some of our engineering programs, some of our accounting programs. That's a legitimate concern, and we ought to be facilitating students to progress with success through our institutions. If you look at the overall productivity of higher education in the state, one of the biggest levers that we have are better pathways for student success through our universities. And I referred earlier to our course redesign project. We've studied this at great detail. There are courses that people have a hard time getting through and they retake them. We have some students who come who need some preparation. They're not prepared for a certain field. We need to design those courses, not to make them easier, water them down, but have the kinds of sources that get our students through in an efficient manner. One of the curriculum reforms was the creation of the College of Undergraduate Studies. You can't get a degree in it. It doesn't hire faculty, but students who are undecided can go and matriculate for a year and a half in the College of Undergraduate Studies, and we make sure that if they're undecided, they are taking the kinds of courses, basic building block courses, breadth requirements, that when they do decide, they don't have to go back to the front door and come in again, and then they're 5 or 6 years. So advising is a big part of it. I won't tick through all of the things that we're doing, but getting our students through in the most high quality, expeditious fashion And that's, in a sense, graduation rates aren't a perfect.
Well, in that
surrogate for
respect,
that,
4
but
years may not be the appropriate way
But-
to measure success. That's what you're saying.
In some majors it is. In some majors, we ought to be getting more of our students through in 4 years. We want to improve our 4-year, our 5-year, our 6-year.
So neither of you
graduation
believes that the rates I quoted, the just above 50% in 4 years, you're not satisfied with that?
No, we're not. No. But again, getting higher rates out at the 4-year level is going to be some challenge, but it's doable. We know how to do that. The issue is, again, making sure advising is really spot on, making sure the incoming preparation is as good as it can be, and making sure we have all the right pathways laid out for them so they actually can be successful through the entire program. Again, I got through in 3 years, okay? And I, of course, an easy major physics, no problem with that. But
Do you know what the 3-year graduation rate at Texas A&M is?
No, I don't.
Probably pretty low, I'm
not very
assuming,
high.
right, yeah.
I'm just being facetious, but the point really is that the student needs to understand this is an important thing too. Some students really enjoy being at college. They really enjoy being in college. When my son hit his 6th year, I said, this is the last one, okay?
That's enough fun.
Exactly.
Right, okay, well.